What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Still getting over the sickness that I've been going through a little bit through the past few days, so please do advise that I am feeling a little bit under the weather. But the Maple Leafs, man, it's the off season. We all know that, and they're continuing to tinker things and make things work. And I want to talk to you guys and have a discussion today about what could be next. What's the next move for the Toronto Maple Leafs? So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. I know there's a ton of people who watch these videos that don't subscribe. I'd really appreciate it if you did. But we need to keep going here because the Leafs have a little bit of cap room here. Now, not a ton, but they have some. Now, the way that the roster is currently constructed, if we're looking at the way I'm looking at it here, they have $11 million in cap space, okay? So right now, they have 3 spots missing for their forward group. And, however you view it, this is how it kind of is going to look like roughly as an outline. They're going to do something with Engvall here, but we'll get to that. Right now, without Rasmus Sandin, this is roughly what the blue line looks like. And, of course, they need another goaltender, which more than likely will be a couple different names. It could be a free agent route. It could be, a trade route, but we'll have to see. I've got a couple names, and you guys obviously know a couple of them. But this is a very strange time because the Leafs haven't made it clear if they're going to, move out a defenseman to try to fit Sandin in here. They haven't really talked about Kerfoot moving out, because if they do that, that'll give themselves more money to play with. Now, let's say they trade Kerfoot. That's $14.5 million roughly in cap space. Let's say they trade Justin Hall. That's over $16 million in cap space. But mind you, they need to fill those holes. Right now, I'm under the impression that the Maple Leafs would probably be okay with keeping Kerfoot at $3.5 million. And more than likely moving out Justin Hall in favor of trying to find a spot for Rasmus Sandin. Now, I know some people are going to think that that blue line's not solid enough. Who's going to play the left side? Who's going to play the right side? I think the Maple Leafs are going to try to get the best goalie available in free agency or in trade. And I think they're going to try to get Rasmus Sandin under contract. But what I also believe is that they're going to make an upgrade on their blue line towards the NHL trade deadline. I think they're going to try to have some space readily available to make that big move at the deadline, to go truthfully all in. If they need to trade a Nick Robertson as a prospect and, a couple picks and some more prospects in here, maybe it's a selection that they made at this year's draft, who knows? But I think that they're going to try to do a lot of their work come the NHL trade deadline. Obviously, that's a long ways away, but I think that that's actually an option for them, because I think if you go into this season with this blue line, maybe even including Justin Hall and Rasmus Sandin, that's a good enough blue line to get you to the trade deadline. And I think if you get another good, middle to top 6 forward and fill out the bottom of this lineup with an Engvall and then another depth piece, maybe a Colin Blackwell, this is good enough to get you to the trade deadline and then upgrade. And the goaltending position, especially if you get a guy like Kemper, or if you keep Campbell around for the right price, this team can be upgraded at the deadline. But I can't stress enough, they need to really hit a home run at the deadline. So we'll get to that when that time comes, but we'll have to see what they do leading into free agency. Now, the next thing I want to bring up is a tweet from James Myrtle saying that Dubas will give Engvall a qualifying offer. Kasha is to be determined. Now, with Pierre Engvall and other players that are restricted free agents, the qualifying offer, there's a calculator for it on Cap Friendly. Now, this one, if you click Rasmus Sandin, his qualifying offer would be under $900,000, which he will definitely be getting one unless they sign him to a long-term deal. Andre Kasha, his qualifying offer would be 1.25, and a guy like Pierre Engvall would also be 1.25. Now, I think they're a little bit skeptical to give one to Kasha because of injury trouble, and he's a good hockey player, but I don't know if they want to bring back both Engvall and Kasha. To me, if you want a safe bet, I think you extend that to Engvall and hope that he accepts, but he actually had a pretty good season this year, so they might be trying to do a multiple year deal at a similar AAV. He had 15 goals and 20 assists for 35 points, but in the playoffs, he didn't really produce. So you're looking for more from that depth. So if the Leafs find some trouble with Pierre Engvall, maybe he doesn't come back, and that gives the Leafs, that extra space. Sorry, the light went out behind me, but it gives the Leafs that extra space to go out there and get a different depth piece. It's very possible. The rumor out there is that Sam Gagner might be a depth move for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He'd be probably under $1 million. I wouldn't mind that, but that's not a guy that would be my first choice. But Pierre Engvall is getting a qualifying offer, and like I said, if you want to look more into the qualifying offers, this is roughly what they would be getting, and it's done by Cap Friendly. Now, like I said, Engvall, good hockey player. I would bring him back if it's less than 1.5. I think that's probably fair. You need as much depth as possible, and a guy that can give you 15 goals on the third or fourth line, I'm definitely okay with. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is the goaltending position. We're looking at Darcy Kuemper and Jack Campbell as the two guys that are probably on the top of a lot of teams' list that are looking for a goalie, because Ville Husso is no longer available. He was traded to the Red Wings. Obviously, Marc-Andre Fleury has re-signed with the Minnesota Wild. Multiple goalies are off the board, and teams like Washington, the Oilers, and the Leafs need a goalie. Now, for the Leafs, they could just re-sign Jack Campbell before free agency and then go in there with whatever's money is left and try to upgrade somewhere else. But how much does Jack Campbell want? Because the rumored ask is over $5 million. That's a lot of money, and the Leafs can't afford to give Campbell too much money if they don't believe that he is truly their long-term starter. If you look at Campbell's numbers, he's been a pretty good goalie, and in the playoffs, his numbers weren't so good, and like I said, he was back and forth. But this season, there was a large stretch of time where he was really good, and there was a really long stretch where he was not so good. He was actually pretty bad for a little bit. And with Kuemper, you're getting more consistency over a longer period of time, a guy that can play easily over 50 games. He's proven it before, and give you really solid numbers in the playoffs as well. If the Leafs get goaltending, 915 to 917 goaltending with a 2.54 goals against, and even if they get these numbers in the playoffs, the Leafs are a much different team. And I'm not blaming everything on Campbell, but throughout the season, some of those wins really matter, and the Leafs really, really, really have to go all in this year. So if I was to make the choice, I would probably pay a little bit more to get Darcy Kuemper, but I'm not really sure what that number is going to be and how high of a bidding war it could be. Could it be over $6 million? Could it be close to $7 million? I don't know. It's a lot of money, but Kuemper is a very experienced goaltender who can play that over 50 games. Campbell has a little bit of that injury-troubled past and sort of that hot and cold play, but I would not be disappointed if the Leafs got Campbell back. It just would have to be lower than $4.5 million, which I don't believe it's going to be. So it's something to look out for, but I would be happy with bringing in Darcy Kuemper or getting a Jack Campbell back at the right number. But you have to understand, you're going to be paying a little bit more, because now these guys, if they reach free agency, which Kuemper obviously is going to, and Campbell will have to see, that number is going to go up just based off of the open market and based off of the bidding wars that will probably happen. Goalies right now, there isn't a ton of elite goaltenders or, close to elite or really good goaltenders out there. So you're going to be looking towards the top of the list, and two guys that are there are Jack Campbell and Darcy Kuemper. And, people have been floating around, maybe go back to try to trade for a guy like John Gibson. I think the price is too high, and I don't think the Leafs can afford to pay it right now in terms of the trade costs plus the amount of money that they're going to be paying him. If you can get a Darcy Kuemper who could roughly make the same amount of money, you're getting him basically for free instead of paying the assets. And right now, I would value Kuemper over Gibson, which some people could say I'm wrong, but for the cost you're getting him at is in free agency, and he's been a really, really good goaltender, and he just won the Stanley Cup, and he looked really good there too, playing with basically one eye. He was injured if you've seen the photos, but man, I don't know what the Leafs are going to do next, but the goaltending position is their number one thing that they need to look at. Hopefully by the time this is posted, it's not outdated already. But yeah, I'm not feeling so good, so I definitely need to stop making this video. So if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. We'll see what the Leafs do next, and make sure to comment down below what you think. Subscribe if you're new, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.